what happened next? The calls lasted all day long. All day long we were getting calls that people were reporting they were being turned away, that they were told they weren't registered to vote, they were ineligible to vote, they were waiting 2 hours, 3 hours. Some people were saying that their full locations, we were now in the house, and that election officials had to go home, which is illegal and that they can't do. So we were on the phone with county elections, and they're telling us, no, that's not happening. Everything's fine. Don't worry. It's just a little bit of a longer line. Nobody's running out of ballots. Well, on the other side, I'm getting hundreds of phone calls and emails and people going on their Facebook page saying they were just denied to vote. They couldn't vote. They're wondering what's going on. By the end of the day, there was lines, and I'm sure you guys saw the news. I mean, people were waiting in line 3, 4, 5 hours just to vote. And it wasn't a long ballot. It was literally one question. Who is your presidential preference? For the Democrats, Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton, that takes 15 seconds. For the Republicans, there was 5 candidates. So people were waiting in line for over 5 hours. The polls closed at 7 p.m. The last voter didn't actually vote until 12:30 at night. That's crazy. So to kind of get at, we're going back to this polling locations. So in 2008, it was 51% turnout in Maricopa County. There was 400 locations. In 2012, it was 50% turnout. There was 200 locations. This year, as of right now, it's looking like it's going to be about 47% total turnout. There was only 60 polling locations. So, and on Tuesday's election, 86% of all ballots cast were done by mail. So only 14% were done in the polls. So here's what the they should have. So that is the issue that we have because we as the community have to find locations that we can present to county elections and say, hey, this is where we want to vote. This is where our community wants to vote. And unfortunately, what happened on Tuesday was that county elections went in and they just said, oh, you're going to vote here, 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 here. They did not take public input. They just told people where you were going to vote. And unfortunately, as we found out, some of the polling locations were not in low-income, minority districts. They have really, turned down the votes. That's the vote. We know there. So, what do you think that is chair of the Maricopa County Democratic Party talking about March 22nd, covering so talk something more, Stephen, about when you said that the polling locations were not in places where people of color or disenfranchised voters or people actually live, and not to make broad generalizations, but
County tend to lean more Democratic. So you as the chair of the Democratic Party, what base, this is a pretty contested Democratic base, and they have money. I think you're looking back to 2008. So from that perspective, can you give us a little context as to how you felt? Did the Democrats come out and vote Maricopa County anyway, or was this like, were you convinced that the lack of polling places actually impacted electoral turnout? Because I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I'd love to hear more about what you see that turnout was.
Basically, at the polls on Tuesday, about 83,000 people actually voted. Over 27,000 were given provisionals. Those 27,000 could have been independents, they could have been people that thought they were registered to vote, that they weren't, could have been for a variety of reasons. So basically, 100,000 people actually voted on that last Tuesday. We will never know how many thousands of people saw the line, they walked home, they went home, they didn't even bother. I mean, we have, so far, we have reports, just on our tape right now, of 4,100, so this is just for us, of 4,100 reports of people that were not allowed to vote, that they feel they should.
Wow. So 4,100 reports, that's Democrats in Maricopa County who felt like they could vote, and they just were like, I couldn't vote. Is that correct?
That is just people who have actually contacted us. Right.
So we can say that. It's safe to say that no one's going to report to you, so there's probably right. No one's going to say, well, I was pissed off, I want to vote. So what's that takeaway? I mean, like, where do you, how do you look at this through the lens of, chairman of the Democratic Party, Maricopa County? What's the takeaway here? I mean, is this going to be the standard for how voting is going to happen in Arizona?
Well, first off, as we all should know, voting should not be a Democratic issue. It should not be a Republican issue. This is an American, pillar of democracy, the right of people to vote. And we, as a county, state, and put that on Tuesday. Now, what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that people that are eligible to vote can, they should not be denied, they should not be blocked, they should have easy access to vote. So, I'm just trying to say, the biggest problem I think we have here now is that there was a lot of first-time voters. They were excited by Bernie Sanders, they were excited by Hillary Clinton, whatever. People just wanted to vote. These people who stood in line for 4 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, we broke their trust. These people, when we go back in November and ask them to vote for our candidate, they're going to say, I don't want to wait in line for 5 hours. We broken that trust with the state of Arizona in the election system. And again, we'll have no way of knowing how many people now tried to vote for the first time in their life and gave up. And this is why I don't vote.
Even now, how is it affect the presidential election? I mean, is this how many polling places are affected, or is there going to be any kind of reassessment before the election?
We do have an election in May for the Prop 123 Education Fund. They have said they're going to have more polling locations for that. They're also telling us that they're going to have as many polling locations as possible in November. I don't have the exact number, but they said they will have many, many, many more, probably in the hundreds. I don't know. They're definitely going to reassess after what happened, and they're going to figure out what went wrong and what they can do to make sure that voting is not so difficult in November.
Let me ask you a question. How much does it cost? I mean, what was saved? How much does it cost to run an election in Maricopa?
Approximately, by their projection, they saved between $900,000 and $1 million by having only 6 polling locations.
So that's how much they're saving, or that's how much it costs?
That's how much they said that the elections was only a few million. So again, they did all of this to save between $900,000 and $1 million. I personally think this is outsourced that.
Yeah, it's not just county money, so this is money that comes from the county. It's not is it earmarked from the legislature? I mean, how is the money appropriated?
The money is given out by the state legislature. In the state legislative body, they pay for the election. They are supposed to repay the county elections, and that's why you're telling them to as cheap as possible. And that's what you get when you have the Republicans in power, and they control everything. They control the vote. They control where it comes. I mean, this is what's going on in this state right now.
Is this tied to Supreme Court setting the Voting Rights Act? I'm reading from the documents on that. So is there direct coordination?
Correct, because now the states don't have to have the federal oversight of their elections. Now the states can do it on their own. They don't have to require approval from the federal government. So yes, the Voting Rights Act definitely was an impact on this. So as I don't know if you guys saw, but the mayor of Phoenix, Rick Stanton, he actually called for an investigation by the Department of Justice to find out whether what happened. Were people disenfranchised? Was this done against minority communities? But that's what we're going to try to find out. And unfortunately, it's going to take some time to figure out what happened. If why it's happened. It's never happened here.
Right. So that's I guess that's the bigger question. So what are people saying? I mean, you kind of said like this happened. You're looking at it from the party level. But what's the mood out there? Like, what's the mood of the election? I mean, you talk about racial trust and all that, but I'm just curious if when you're hearing these people are like, this was bad, this was a disaster, and are voters like, is the election going, like, were they kind of almost like shocked about this, and then kind of going, how did this happen? I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, so as a word, go ahead, sorry.
No, go. You go.
The general public was extremely upset. And anybody who lives in Arizona can tell you their entire Facebook feed on Tuesday afternoon and evening, Wednesday, has been nothing but, posts about this election. And people sharing horror stories of waiting for hours. So people are very upset. They feel that their government let them down. People in minority communities feel that they were unfairly targeted because of where they live, their income levels, and things like that. So yes, the people are very angry. There's actually going to be hearings at the state legislature tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. that I'm going to be attending. That people are going to demand answers from our elected officials about what happened.
Well, Stephen, we really appreciate your time and the update.
Absolutely.
I'm sure, Christian, our producer, has been in contact with you. I don't think this story is going to go away. We'd love to have you back on throughout the year because, like Cherie says, how will this affect the general election would be very fascinating to hear. And so we'd love to have you back on. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. I'd love to be on this super important issue, and we've got to get to the bottom of this, and hopefully we'll have some answers soon. And I definitely look forward to being back with you guys, and thank you for having me on your show again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephen. That was Stephen Suglaki. He was the chair of the Maricopa County Democratic Party in Arizona. So, Charisse, you're like you're what is Game of Thrones? Like you're anticipating something like sinister. I was like, what do you think?
I guess my question is now how does this affect other areas throughout Arizona as well? If it's affected other areas of Arizona, and how this is going to affect other states that now because there isn't any protection of the Voter Rights Act, when the Supreme Court got rid of the Voter Rights Act, So how is that also going to affect other states? And are we seeing like the first effects of that here in Arizona? It seems like in Maricopa County. But it seems like, Maricopa County is where it was hit the hardest, but what about other areas in Arizona? It's like what I'm curious to know. And, again, like how is this going to affect other areas, other states where you have like low income, areas and disenfranchised communities now that you don't have the voting rights act, now that you don't have states having to access the federal government.
But I mean, I think it's hard to make the correlation to the Democratic side to say that the people that didn't vote would that have turned the election, would have made the election closer. Who knows? We can't look at it this way. I mean, I know there was a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters out there who were saying that this is all voter suppression and Sanders didn't win Arizona because of this. I think that's a little bit too of that conclusion is not really conclusive, and it's really hard to tell who got turned away. Like Steven said, like who saw a line in 5 hours. It's like when you go to this restaurant that you really want to go to, and then you show up and there's like a line out the door. You're like, oh, let's go find another restaurant. You know what I mean? Like that person's like, I'm not gonna vote. Like I don't think that person's calling the Democratic Party of Maricopa County to be like, hey, there's a long line, I'm not gonna vote. So it will be interesting to see how it does affect turnout. It seemed that it did. I mean, it actually did from what Steven was saying. But I don't know. I mean, but I think the whole issue of government, like people trusting your government to vote, that's a very essential issue. And it looked like Arizona, at least Maricopa County, last week, dropped the ball on that one. Anyway, we have our next guest on, so we're gonna bring on Cito Gonzalez in a second. But Therese, you saw before the Arizona protest, I'm sorry, primary. Yeah, there were protests. And did you see the protest? I know you were busy, talking in South by Southwest, covering music, living the life. So I don't know if you saw this or not.
Don't hate.
I'm just saying the truth. You were at South by Southwest. People were protesting in Arizona. I mean, that's all I'm saying. That's not cheating. It's just stating a fact. But I think the Saturday before the primary, there was a protest that blocked the highway for people to get to a Donald Trump rally. And it kind of made some noise. And it was a little bit hardcore. And there were a couple of arrests. There was actually 3 arrests. And one of those people arrested is on with us right now, and that is Cito Gonzalez, who's the field director for Game Day, which is a new collective of organizers out in the world. We've actually had a couple of meetings with people. I think that how are you, Young, with Lito and Shadis on Latino Rebels Radio. How's up?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on. Hello.
So I forgot. So before we get into your arrest and the fact that you were then turned over to ICE, which I'm kind of like, that just boggles my mind. Can you? I mean, it's crazy. He's an American citizen. That's the reason why we're having her on. But I kind of like revealed it. I see what I did there, Therese. I did the reveal of why we had the public on. But before we do that, I want to know a little bit more about the moment of the protest, because let's say this. I mean, I was watching it on a live feed. Then the mainstream media started picking it up. There wasn't. I mean, I saw the tweets and I saw what people were sharing on the ground, but I didn't see a lot of. There wasn't a lot of talk of what was actually happening. So before we talk about your arrest, explain the mood and what was actually happening in those couple of hours where you guys shut down this highway.
Sure. So, a group of community organizers, community members, and activists were all really talking about how damaging Trump and Trump politics has been in our state. We're seeing a huge new wave of anti-immigrant bills, as well as anti-refugee laws, you know, bills that go against women's rights. We're seeing a big impact. Basically, all of the politics that Trump is doing, we're starting to see try to take effect in our state legislature. And so we knew that we had to take action. And we wanted to shut down the Trump event and be able to really express our frustration and our understanding that he's not just a candidate, but he's really activating a white supremacist base that's really dangerous for the country. So, given that, you know, Arizona's an open carry state, which means guns, and given how much violence there's been inside of the rallies, we really wanted to take a different approach and try to shut down the event by ensuring that people couldn't get to it. So we were on the road that was leading to the park where the event was taking place, and we were sort of all in formation, lined up, and stopped our vehicles in the middle of the road so that people couldn't get to the event. And so that's how we stopped traffic. We stopped traffic for several hours. You know, they were expecting up to 10,000 people at the Trump event, but only about 500 showed up. So generally that's what happened, and then as they were towing away some of the vehicles, several of us decided to chain ourselves to the remaining cars to try to prolong, you know, their ability to get us off the road.
All right, so before I turn over to Sharice, because we're gonna, so basically you guys just showed up in cars, stopped in the middle of the highway, just stopped traffic, and then when it looked like it was gonna end, you decided to chain yourself to your cars.
Yeah, several of us did. Yeah, there were several of us that had like locks and chains. So two gentlemen sort of chained themselves around the waist, and I put a blood block around my neck to the door of the van.
So, but what was the mood? Yeah, what was the mood when this was happening? Like, what? I mean, were there people? I'm sure there are the people that were supporting you were kind of like, oh, this is, you know, we're hardcore. This is protest. But what were the people? Like, what was the reaction of the people that weren't protesting when they were seeing this? Where they were kind of like, what's going on? I mean, were you able to sense that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of energy and support from all of the folks that were in our group. You know, people have been really angry and upset about the type of hatred that Donald Trump is doing. And so people are fired up. People are ready to shut it down, and people are ready to defend the communities that they love. You know, for us, this idea of interrupting or protesting or blocking the road came out of love for our community. You know, it can't be expected that as Donald Trump is doing hatred and saying that he's going to deport, you know, all Mexicans and therefore all Latinx people, that he's going to, you know, incarcerate troublemakers and that he's going to surveil Muslims. It can't be expected that people are going to take that silently and passively. There's a lot of an act of love. People were out there and you know, enjoying their free speech and really sort of putting up a fight. Obviously, there was a lot of Trump supporters that were extremely upset. And definitely there was many people who came up and tried to cause problems, tried to cause fights. You guys can see in some of the videos, there was actually a vehicle that tried to run over some protesters. And so it got very dangerous at a certain point. And unfortunately, the deputies weren't doing such a good job of controlling it, but we had really excellent community members that were trained in peacekeeping that really, you know, ensured that everything was de-escalated and no one got hurt. So, first of all, just to clarify, you said you had expected 10,000 supporters to show up to the rally, but only 500 got in. Yeah, you know, there's only two entrances to get to the event. And so on the other side of the road, people were protesting and several hundred folks were able to block off traffic to also limit the amount of people that got in. So you can see aerial shots of the Donald Trump event and just a fraction of what they were expecting.
Yeah, there was expectations of 10,000. I don't think the estimates of around 500 might be a little bit low, but it was definitely lower than 10,000 people. Much lower than 10,000 people. Anyway, go Sharice.
So, to tell us about you getting arrested and being detained by ICE. Get into that. Sure. So, you know, after the three of us were arrested, two white gentlemen and myself, we were transported to the Maricopa County Sheriff's jail, the 4th Avenue jail. And so this is a jail that's run Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who's known nationally and probably at this point internationally is one of the worst sheriffs in the country. Even the Department of Justice has documented for many years his pattern and practice of racial profiling, abuse of force, unconstitutional raids on workers. So we were taken into the jail, and basically I was singled out because of my Latino last name to be interviewed by ICE agents. Both Maricopa County and ICE have said that they interviewed all three of us, but that's simply not true. Both Mike and Ben have said publicly to other press outlets that they were never interviewed, that they were never asked about their citizenship status. But I was. I defended my constitutional right to not answer questions, interrogations without an attorney present, and they retaliated against me and tried to detain or out me. So what that meant is that after our court hearing that evening where the judge released us on our oath of cognizance, both Ben and Mike got to go home to their families, but I was kept overnight in segregation, sort of in my own cell, until in the morning immigration agents came, handcuffed me, shackled my feet, and took me to the immigration office to question me further and fingerprint me, where they established that I was a U.S. citizen and released me. And so really, if you guys can imagine, I'm a U.S. citizen, I speak perfect English, I have very, expert skin, and so that's the type of discrimination I went through. You can imagine for someone who is undocumented, who has dark skin, who might be transgender, the type of abuse and harassment and profiling that they have to undergo is just outrageous.
So you were held overnight at the Fort Street jail, and then ICE came later in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I was kept all night, and then they came for me.
And then so how did they determine that you were a U.S. citizen? Were they they had a book or something, or
No, they were able. They took my fingerprints, and I'm guessing this is my first arrest, but I'm guessing that because I have a U.S. passport, my fingerprints came up in their system.
Got it.
But I had already given them, my name, my date of birth, and my driver's license, which you can't get a driver's license in Louisiana without having a citizen. So it was completely unnecessary.
So were you released? When were you released?
The next morning.
Next morning. So how long did it take them to determine that you were a U.S. citizen? That's my question. And then they just released you. They're like, okay, you're free to go.
Literally, they held me. So both Ben and Mike were released at about midnight. I was kept overnight, and during that time they were investigating me. They were just holding me. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office was just being really nice to the ICE agents and making sure to hold me so they could then investigate me in the morning. I think it probably took
you were detained behind bars. You were detained behind bars.
Yes, I was in isolation. I was in my own cell with the lights on all night, the freezing cold, which is the common thing with immigration detainers. It's actually they hold you past the time you should be released, which is why nationwide people have been challenging the constitutionality of these detainers, because in my case clearly shows they're not based on probable cause. It's not that they actually have a reason to suspect. It's just if they want to profile you, and if they determine that they want to hold you longer, they can. And so it's just, they basically can decide you on your freedom just because of your last name or just because of the way that you look. And I think that's kind of the point, right, is that what was the probable cause for them to suspect that you weren't a U.S. citizen? Certainly for them, the probable cause was that I asked an attorney to answer any questions. That was enough probable cause for them.
Yeah, you were a U.S. citizen. Oh my God, she's asking me questions. So wait, Joe, I'm just really curious, and I'm not trying to belabor this, but the fact that I don't think people hear what goes on. So the next morning, you're in isolation. The next morning, they say, do they go, sorry, you're a U.S. citizen, sorry, or they're like, okay, you can just leave. But it's not, they release you, and then, how does that happen?
I was literally transferred to the immigration office. Same thing, asked to speak to an attorney. They took my fingerprints and literally told me, we're kicking you out. You have to leave now. And what was really painful about this is, the reason that it was so easy and effective for them to do this is because of the deportation machinery that has been built by Joe Arpaio with his jail. And also the reason, ICE is a completely rogue agency. They're the biggest police force in the U.S. They have over 55,000 armed police officers every day with zero supervision. They truly believe that because they're reporting people and in a sense, reporting the evidence of their wrongdoing, that they can get away with anything. We've been fighting this type of abuse in New Orleans, where I used to live. They used to conduct stop and frisk raids in Latino neighborhoods. So they would literally just go up to anyone who was Latino, handcuff them, fingerprint them, and if something came up in the database, just put them. Those are all based on racial profiling. We're working right now with the raid against youth in North Carolina and Georgia. It's the same thing. All of the thousands and thousands of families that have been separated into Ohio's jail is based on the same thing. So we're seeing a system that they say is civil, but truly has criminal and devastating consequences.
Well, one question before I turn it back over to Sharice, because again, I'm fixated on this as the journalism is like, but were they even like, sorry, your U.S. citizens, our bad. It was just totally like, yeah, just get out. Like they didn't even give you the respect. I know, granted, you were arrested and then you have rights, but they don't even give you the respect to be like, oh, you're a U.S. citizen, our bad. Like it's just kind of like they don't even admit they did anything wrong. Is that what you're saying?
That's the total subject. When I was being interviewed by the ICE agent inside of the jail, he asked me about my immigration status. I said, I have the right to remain silent and I want to speak to an attorney before answering any questions. And I said this is like the same way I'm saying it to you. It's like not exactly as I'm saying to you. Like, and this is those things where
you sound very you sound very pleasant on the phone. So if you're saying like that's totally clear.
I was even nicer to the ICE agent. And literally said, oh, so you're illegal. And I was like, I can't answer any questions about an attorney present. Then he, continued to ask me questions. I repeated, I don't want to answer any questions about an attorney present. And then he said, oh, so you're a pain in the ass to people. So this is, their attitude is just, you don't answer their questions and you don't go along with their statements. They will retaliate, they will insult, they will denigrate, and that's the way that they operate. Like again, ICE is a rogue agency. And
that's a strategy for people to talk. That's what you're saying. It's like, that could be seen as like, that's how we're going to get you to talk without an attorney.
That's their way of intimidating people into waiving their constitutional protections.
So like, I think that the theory, and you're not the first person who's told me this, and this is what I wanted to get to, is that you kind of just confirming the same thing I've been hearing before, is by using this strategy and then taking advantage of people that don't dominate the line, like don't speak English, don't know their rights, don't know what you can say or not say. But eventually, if you continue to pester someone or if you continue to approach it with the strategy they're approaching it, someone will say something, and that could lead to a quick deportation because someone said something and then game over. That's a strategy. That's a strategy.
Exactly. Now that's their strategy, and that's how they refer people. That's how they approach people. There's been several reports that have come out recently about the abuse trans folks face in immigration detention. There's been a constant demand to stop the incarceration and the detention of trans folks because of the rampant sexual abuse, because of the abuse that folks go through. Similarly, they continue to harass and intimidate people. I've heard countless stories of them forcing people to sign documents, forcing people to answer questions, and because they take advantage of the power that they have, and there's no accountability from headquarters in Washington, D.C. And so that's why we continue to say that they have to have more oversight, they have to have less power, and they have to have less infrastructure because they're devastating undocumented communities. So, it's just going back to the issue that they're even asking for your immigration status to begin with because of your last name. Yes. Exactly. So,
because Ben and Mike are, whatever, the two of them, they were white Anglos.
Yes.
Are they like, okay.
No, and I was expecting to see they're from like Poland, right?
Yeah, like Canadian. You're from Canada and you're from like Australia.
and the thing about it is they know not to lie about it. I mean, the truth is they put out public statements saying that everyone was in tribute. That's simply not true. And so they know that what they're doing is wrong. They know that folks that had misdemeanor conviction. I have one who hadn't even been convicted of the misdemeanor I was accused of. So even if if I had been documented, it still would have been against their own guidelines to put a detainer in custody. So they can't follow the Constitution, or they can't follow their own rules. They really have to be stopped, and so there has to be more supervision of these cases. Now, is there a record? Is this going to state on your record that you were detained by ICE? Is this somehow say on your record? Obviously, you weren't charged for anything. And I'm not sure. I mean, what is surprising to me is the Department of Homeland Security. They have the most, the most databases that you can imagine, and they weren't able to show that I was a citizen before, holding me overnight and then transferring to me to immigration. It's kind of
my thing with your explaining, I think you the question about how this is sort of common, that you sense that there was sort of the 4th Street Jail, Arpaio, there's cooperation, and that this is not, your case is not unique, and that this is the way things are done, is what you're suggesting. You got a sense of this is just the way things are done, and not many people know about it. Is that fair to describe that way?
Yeah, I think it's fair to describe, and I think, again, ICE continues to think that they can hide their abuses because they eventually support the people that they abuse. And that's what's given to such rampant unconstitutional behavior. And so, what happened to me was wrong. But it's even worse when they're literally, you have Border Patrol agents constantly being accused of sexual assault. You have ICE agents racially profiling in the street. You have ICE agents working with rogue, we're witnessing a lot in Louisiana, as well as when local police forces abuse their force or do racial profiling. ICE agents will still try to report people even though the initial arrest was unconstitutional. And so there's just a huge pattern and practice of abusive behavior.
Sharice, do you have anything else?
I mean, I'm just thinking, okay, so if I go protest something and, people don't know nothing typically, I'm automatically going to get questioned, This is crazy. I mean, that's it. That was my comment.
No, I think that, what's the status of your case? Yeah, what's the status of your case? I mean, what can you share?
But I'm sure that's my case, but I think that's exactly the point. I mean, this is why we had to protest Trump, why we had to go to such extreme measures. The hatred that Donald Trump is dealing and the politics that he represents are incredibly full of hate, damaging to communities, and are unconstitutional. And we're already starting to see that in our regular, day-to-day lives and the way that our jails and the way that ICE operates. And so can you imagine what it would be like to have this deportation machinery that was built under Obama in the hands of someone like Trump? It's literally like giving a Jaguar or a full piece of gas to a madman. It's going to be incredibly dangerous, and that's why we all have to respond, and we all have to stand up, and some of us will shut down events, and some of us will do other types of actions, but it is time to organize. And that's why as we can say, we've really been pushing to create an organizing space for Latinx and Hispanic folks that believe in a pro-Black agenda, that believe in being pro-women, that believe in being pro-trans and pro-queer, because we know that all of these issues are interrelated, and we have to build up the power that our community deserves. So we were charged with a misdemeanor, and we'll be going for the next couple of months to take those charges.
But is your organizing focus, obviously Trump is the focus of this one, but you did mention President Obama, and, the issue of Democrats the last couple of years, and the fact that, the Obama administration, whether they turn a blind eye to this or not, this has sort of been the standard under the Obama administration, sort of this, immigration detention, deportation system. So, will your actions also go, will you start speaking out against, against President Obama or other Democratic candidates?
Well, we can say through, as an organization, came out of the Not One More Deportation campaign. And we've been fighting against deportations and asking President Obama to use executive action to stop as many deportations as possible since 2012, I think it was. So, we believe that all political parties and all candidates should be held accountable to the communities that they serve. And we believe that includes communities that might be undocumented, that might have criminal record and canceled for those reasons, but also folks that are at the margins and have no building power. And we know that that's why sometimes people like Trump are coming up because they feel threatened by the changes in demographics and the changes in culture. But we can't let up. We have to continue to move forward and continue to organize more and more until we get the justice that everyone needs to be able to thrive.
Right, but once you shut down, the strategy shut down, the request route.
I think right now we understand that the biggest threat is Donald Trump. And so, a lot of our energy is going to be focused there. But, that accountability comes in many shapes and forms. So we'll figure it out as the elections develop.
Well, así estamos, Alex. Yo director from Gente with a J. Gente, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for being on with me.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
That's a story. That's a story. Man, that's a story. It's interesting. You know what? I'm going to bring in Christian in for a second because he lives in the PHX of Phoenix, and he's producing the show. But Christian, quick thing. This is standard. This is what people have been saying about the 4th Street Jail and cooperating with ISIS. Someone like, is Jacinta story an exception or is it more the norm? That's unfortunately more the norm. You hear a lot of horror stories. Being somebody who wasn't at the 4th Street Jail since I won't be paying on the way to being reported a while ago. I'm here legally now, by the way, so anybody wondering. I'm like, whoa, thank you so much. Yeah, the tactics are very much the same. Thankfully for me, I knew my rights. I knew what I could and couldn't say. But while I was detained for 30 days, I saw a lot of people just signing away things that they didn't know what we're saying. It was all in English. There was no Spanish form saying, you are signing your deportation. So it was nothing like, wow. So it does happen. I actually started becoming a translator of sorts to a lot of people and explaining to them, this is what you're signing away. You're sure you're doing what you're signing, making sure this is what you want to do. So it does happen. We look at, I think our community looks at the 4th Avenue Jail like other human rights activists view the secret CIA, you know what I mean, around the world where anything and everything can happen in there and you still have no right. So, this is another reason why what Jacinta is doing and other activists are doing to shut down this hate. It needs to continue, and we need to keep it in the forefront. We need to keep talking about it and putting it out there because it doesn't go away by ignoring it. Yeah, the fact that that's what I'm stuck on, Sharice, as well, is that here's someone like Jacinta or even Christian who could actually understand what these ICE officials and agents were doing and actually knew about their rights. But what about, the thousands who don't? And that's the part where that's all tactics. I mean, there's no other way. I mean, once you figure it out, it's like interrogation. Once you figure out a way to get more people to agree to the deportation, you're going to just keep doing it, right? You're just going to keep repeating the same strategy. And it's like, it's like if you see sort of a show like The Wire or Homicide, using these cops interrogating people, like, it's all a strategy. It's all game. And at the expense of people who, their lives change. It's incredible. Anyway, it's once you do a system, it gets refined. So it's incredible what's going on there. And do I need to remind people, Christian, who the President of the United States is, where this is happening, whose administration it is? It's a Democrat. President Barack Obama. That's according to this is happening. This is happening under Democratic administration, and it makes a lot. When people, Christian brings it up, or Sharice brings it up, or I bring it up, there's a lot of people that nod their heads, but man, there's a lot of people that think, you're shouting the devil. That you're saying things that you're not supposed to say. But that's the truth, people. The truth. Sorry, I'm trying to stay above the fray, but anyway, Christian and Mika, thank you for those two amazing guests. We're going to wrap the show up, me and Sharice, but thanks again for bringing Stephen and Hutchins on. I think Christian did a good job, again, bringing together.
An amazing job. I think the show rocked the house. Arizona is very important. And Christian did a great job with bringing in these guests to talk about everything that's happening in Arizona right now.
So when people do the review for you, Christian, on iTunes, what should they review you? Like what they should call it? As Productor Más Chingón, or how do you want to go? I think just Chingón is sufficient. I think everybody will know what they're talking about if it's a big Chingón. Okay, so make sure someone says, so if you're reviewing the show for Christian and Enriquez, please say, I like it, Chingón. I like the guy, that Chingón guy. Anyway, Christian, we love you. We have your brother.
Wait,
so
this is Chingon. Wait, hold on. You're Chingon. I'm the Chingona, and then you're middle. There you go.
I'm middle. All right, middle. I'll go with middle.
Middle, Chingona, y la Chingona. There you go.
And then middle, the people rebel radio. There's no more time. Sharice, it's Latino Rebels Radio. Another great show. Let's do this again next week, okay?
That's good.
Great. This is a great show. Ricardo Varela, Ricardo Varela, Bonito Salicena, Pixelita Garrido, and Shadis. As you can say, Shadis, and this was Latino Rebels Radio.
With an X.
With an X. We're going to close out with La Plebe, Penas Abiertas. We'll see you guys next week. Catch us on iTunes. Review us. Chingón, Chingona, Mero, all the good stuff. Yes, and Latino Radio. We are out of here.